Obama and Biden have a lot to do with this. I blame the terrorists, but Obama allowed ISIS to come about when he withdrew from Iraq. Trump destroyed the caliphate, killed Soleimani, and got out of the Iran nuclear deal. And the dumbass Biden, the biggest dumbass on the planet, withdrew from Afghanistan, obliterated our borders, and rejoined the Iran nuclear agreement, making the Ayatollah flush with cash.
Yes, Senator Lindsey Graham calling it like it is, which he does from time to time. And let's not forget Barack Obama made the Ayatollahs much wealthier and gave them all kinds of power. And go ahead, spin centrifuges and rich uranium. What's the worst that could happen? Barack Hussein Obama not on our side. Joe Biden doesn't know what it means to be on somebody's side. Gotta tell you. And then they had, that woman that they would make president of the United States. Boy, just hand the keys over to the jihad. Forget about it. Yeah, Lindsey Graham was in Fuego. That was day before yesterday. That was on Sunday. Lindsey Graham was going wild on the television. But last night I was watching the television for you, and I like to call him Speaker Emeritus Newt Gingrich, because he's the former Speaker of the House. And Nancy Pelosi, remember I predicted when she said she was stepping down as Speaker of the House, I predicted that the media would name her the Speaker Emeritus. And they've named her the Speaker Emerita because they have to gender everything. They're the Emerita. And now Newt Gingrich, who's still a genius all these years later, balanced the budget, made Bill Clinton balance the budget. He was a great Speaker of the House, and he's a great former Speaker of the House, and he should be Speaker Emeritus. But Newt Gingrich was on the television last night with Laura Ingraham on the Fox News Channel, and he's talking about radical Islam and the attack in Sydney, Australia. And we had Jihadi, and he was taking him right off. I was talking about him yesterday. It sounded like, when I was listening to him last night, I thought, wow, he sounded like he listened to my radio show yesterday morning. As I was talking about the Jihadi that shot the 2 National Guard members in Washington, D.C., murdering a young woman, shooting her in the head and murdering her, and shooting and nearly murdering a young man who's still in critical condition in the hospital. And that was the jihad. And then they had a Democrat come in from Chicago, not even a jihadi, and attack the 2 Jewish embassy employees outside the Jewish Museum in Washington and gunned them down and killed them both. This is Washington, D.C., just this year, And then we had the Democrat in the Air Force go over to the Israeli embassy and self-immolate, drenched himself in gasoline and Aaron Bushnell set himself on fire and killed himself about 1 mile from here over at the Israeli embassy. The jihad is very real, and it's alive, and it's the Christmas season. Christmas Day is coming, and the jihad, between the jihad and then these leftists, the Turtle Island Liberation Front, they're planning on bombing 5 locations on New Year's Eve and bombing New Orleans as well. Aren't they amazing? And it was kind of funny because I was talking to Michael Piercy about this, and yesterday I started poking around. I'm like, wait a minute, the Turtle Island Liberation Front, surely that's just something from Monty Python. But no, it's the Democrats, and they're left-wing terrorists, right? And it's just amazing. The Intifada, globalize the Intifada, which the Democrats have college students chanting in large numbers in New York, on the sidewalks of New York, globalize the Intifada. And what they're calling for is gunning down Jews on the beach in Australia, in California, in Maryland and Delaware, in Florida. They're calling for mass murder. They're calling for war, is what they're calling for. And the Democrat Party is the party of the first American Civil War, and they're the party of Cardi B. But that's not important now. Let's go to the Newtster, Newtmobile, Newt Gingrich, the Speaker Emeritus. Newt Gingrich on last night with Laura Ingraham talking about the jihad, what had happened on Bondi Beach in Sydney, Australia, talking about the terror attacks in Washington, D.C., from the self-immolation at the embassy to the gunning down and murder of the two embassy personnel, a young man and a Israeli embassy personnel, young man and a young woman who were murdered after coming out of just after coming out of a Jewish museum in Washington, D.C., and then the two guardsmen gunned down by an Afghan jihadi that Joe Biden waved into the country. More Democrats, more murder. More Democrats, more Islamic jihad. More Democrats, more blood in the streets. It's up to my ankles. Sorry, slipping into the doors there. But here's Newt Gingrich last night talking about the harsh realities of the jihad.
It is spreading because we have no strategy for going after people who have been radicalized. That's the key in Gaza. That's the key in Syria. That's the key in the United States. We have to have a totally new approach, and that requires rethinking parts of the First Amendment and asking yourself, if somebody is preaching death, do they really have a right to do that?
Now, I just played the audio of the college students, young, white, privileged, $70,000 a year college students, and they're chanting, globalize the Intifada, which means gun down and murder Jewish people everywhere in the world. And they're being taught that in New York. And what we saw in Australia on Bondi Beach in Sydney is a massacre, an anti-Semitic, Nazi-style, genocidal, racist, hate-filled massacre. And the Democrat Party, they're saddled up chanting free, free Palestine because they're that stupid. And they've been that corrupted by leftists overwhelmingly, not by Arab Muslim men, although there's been some of that, like what's his name in New York, that we were just talking about. But we've got, they get the student visas and come to the United States and they teach what is modern day Nazism, right? And they, they have these guys come in and teach the students. Yeah, Mahmoud Khalil, of course, as any school child can tell you.
We also underestimate the power of social media and the degree to which people are being recruited psychologically on the internet. These are going to be tough conversations, but every week we're going to be reminded somewhere on the planet if somebody is killed. And this is not going away. This requires defeating them, not ignoring them.
Yeah, that's a fact. Attacking, killing them, not ignoring. It's sad. The civilized people every now and then have to rise up and crush the uncivilized people. When Nazi Germany rose up, the Socialist Workers' Party of Germany under Adolf Hitler, my father was one of 16.5 million American men that left their homes in the United States and went to Europe and to the Pacific to destroy tyranny because the bad guys would conquer the world and enslave everyone and brutalize everyone. And so, all that is necessary for the triumph of evil is that good men do nothing. And I'm happy to say that the United States did not produce a generation back then of good men that did nothing. We produced a generation of good men that did something. And they put their lives on the line and they smashed fascism, which was actually called National Socialist Workers' Party. But never mind that. And Newt Gingrich, he said something in the first soundbite. He said, we might have to rethink parts of the First Amendment. If someone is really preaching death, do they really have a right to do that? And if you are out there being a Nazi, death to the Jews everywhere in the world, which is what globalized the Intifada means, should mobs of violent white youths who call themselves liberals and go to Ivy League schools, should they be allowed to go out and chant? If you're Jewish, if you're Jewish in America, Jews in America have never been as terrorized as Jews in America are today. And today, in 2025. And the reason is 99.8% on the Democrat Party. And the Democrat Party is with the open borders and waving in the jihadis and deferring to what they call the Palestinians. They really mean Hamas, which is a genocidal terror organization, radical Islamic terror organization. And Newt Gingrich raises a question, and I'm not saying we ban speech right now, but we've got to have this discussion. We really do, because the jihad is in Australia, in Sydney. The jihad is here in Washington, D.C. The jihad is global, and globalizing the Intifada, which is what the Democrat Party is pushing for, they are a scourge on civilization, and they're the bad guys. The left is supporting the jihad and the bad guys. But isn't that amazing? When Newt Gingrich says we may have to rethink parts of the First Amendment, if someone is preaching death, do they really have a right to do that? And that's an important question for the 21st century, because the Democrats, they think they're being open-minded, but they're so open-minded that their brains fall out and make a splat sound on the ground because they're not very bright at all. Just amazing. We also have this mass shooting at Brown University in Providence, Rhode Island, and we don't know what the motive was. We don't know who the killer was. There was a young woman, the vice president of the College Republicans at Brown University, which is allegedly an Ivy League school, and I saw, who was it? I saw somebody on the television last night saying that the parents of the young woman that was murdered in the classroom was the target of the attack. Now, if that's true, is that because she was a nice Christian girl, which she was because she was the vice president of the College Republicans? Is that why she was targeted? And I can tell you, who was it? It was Gropey, one of the Gropey guys. Can't narrow it down beyond that. The guy from MSNBC, Mark Halperin, that's who it was. Mark Halperin, he's a groper, and Rubber, he's a rubber. He rubs, and he said that he heard that the parents were told of the young woman that was murdered at Brown University that she was the target, and if that's true, is that because she represented the Republican club on campus? The news media doesn't care. They're kind of hoping that's the explanation, because they're not on the side of truth, justice, and the American way. Not at all. Now, let's go to, since we moved there, now CNN is reporting today that there is a new lead, and I don't know that there is a new lead. You can't believe what CNN is saying, but they've got there talking about it, and Brown University they call him the shooter. He's a gunman, he's a murderer. And they've got a $50,000 reward up, the FBI does, for information leading to the arrest of the gunman, of the murderer at Brown University. And I was watching the mayor of Providence, Rhode Island yesterday, a left-wing Democrat, and his name is Brett Smiley. And Brett Smiley, holding a press conference, I love, listen to how carefully phrased and what a weasel this guy is, Brett Smiley. You got to listen to all the qualifiers. Hey, is there any new information? This is yesterday afternoon. And listen to the weasel phrasing that he automatically comes up with.
There's been no new, credible, specific threat anywhere in the Providence community. The way in which we are trying to reassure our residents is through a noted, visible police presence throughout the community. It is going to be hard for my city to feel safe going forward. This has shaken us.
And then he said everybody should just go about their business as though everything's normal and there's nothing to see here. Now, what did he say, the Democrat Mayor Brett Smiley? He said, well, is there any reason for people to be concerned since there's a mad gunman on the loose that hasn't been identified? You don't know who you're looking for. He hasn't been arrested. He hasn't been captured. There's a mad killer on the loose, and they're acting like everything's fine. They just walk along and chew gum like nothing's going on. And he said there's been no new, credible, specific threat anywhere in the Providence area. So what about outside of the Providence? Oh, well, there have been plenty of new, credible, specific threats for them. But so wait a minute. So you've got a credible threat, but it's not a new credible threat. You have a specific threat, but it's not a new threat. And you have to put all those words together, because I've been decoding the weasel talk for so long that when I heard this guy talking yesterday, I laughed out loud. So listen to that snake language, lizard boy. Man. You've heard me talk about Chef IQ Sense. We have one at home. We use it all the time. It's the wireless cooking thermometer that takes all the guesswork out of your holiday meals and then all year long. Talking about your roast, your turkey, your prime rib, comes out perfect every time, turning the I think it's done to I know it's perfect. It even tells you when to flip your steak, your roast, your food, when to take it off the heat, how long to let it rest before you carve it. Basically, it's like having a personal chef right there in your kitchen. And with Chef IQ, you can sit down and sip your cocoa, actually spend time with your family instead of hovering over the oven all day and all night long. And here's the best part. It's the perfect gift for everyone. Everyone's going to love it. Perfect for the seasoned chef, a skilled chef, for kitchen rookies, and for everyone in between. This season, give yourself and the people that you love the gift of perfectly cooked food all year long with Chef IQ. And with my promo code, because we hang out together, PLANTE, P-L-A-N-T-E, you can save 30% and get all your shopping done before Christmas. Just go to chefiq.com, CHEFIQ.com, chefiq.com. Use the promo code PLANTE at chefiq.com. Yes, sir. Yes. I still need to get to the Turtle Island people. Explain the Turtle Island Democrat terrorists and who they're named after. So they call themselves these turtle people. They're very unwell. Turtle Island, they're the Turtle Island people. And the Black Orchid, they're the Black Orchid people too. They're completely insane. But it turns out Turtle Island, they named themselves the Turtle Island Radical Group because Native Americans, that is before Christopher Columbus discovered America, Turtle Island is the name for Earth, or it can be the name for North America, used by Indian peoples. That's the plural of people. People, and then, you got people, then you have peoples. And it turns out that these lunatics with this radical left-wing group, the Turtle Island people, they think they're Native Americans. And they think that Native Americans called North America, the island of North America, Turtle Island. So now they're Turtle Island people. Now, this whole Brown University mass shooting, gunman on the loose, no suspect has been named. And Brown University, which is supposed to be an Ivy League institution, and again, I saw the president of the university yesterday talking to the press, and she seemed like a not very bright person. The Ivy League does not impress the way that perhaps it once did, but it certainly doesn't impress me. I'll give you that much. I mean, I got to tell you, I came to Washington, D.C. a long time ago, mostly from Santa Barbara, where I did a little city college and didn't bother to finish. And I came here, and I found myself in a newsroom surrounded by people that went to Harvard and Yale and every place. And I learned very early on that I wasn't impressed with these people. It impressed me when I was 12 years old. Oh, Harvard, they got a shirt from Harvard and all that good stuff. But honestly, are you kidding me? So your dad got you a tutor when you were in high school and you got into a good college, and once you're there, it's hard to flunk out. I'm not impressed at all. But Brown University now not impressing me in real time because of the way they have botched and bungled this mass shooting where a nice young woman was murdered, and she was the vice president of the Republican organization on campus, the Republican club on campus, the vice president. She was gunned down. Is she? In fact, Michael Piercy went and found the good old, what's his name, Mark Halperin yesterday on News Nation saying what he was told, that the psycho killer at the Ivy League institution, Brown University, went into the classroom and started shooting the place up. That Halperin says, well, I was told that the young woman who's the vice president of the Republican Club, was the target of the lunatic.
People are telling me that the family of Ella Cook, the Alabama young woman who was a sophomore, has been told that she was the target of what happened at Brown. I have no idea whether that's true. There's other theories about why the person did what they did, but now that we don't know who the assailant is, it's going to be harder to say. But if it's true that she was targeted, that's a big story because she was one of the most visible conservatives on that campus. Don't know that it's true, but probably most of you don't even know that that's being alleged.
Well, that's right, and it's not being widely reported, and we've got a news media that's so corrupt that if they learned that to be true, they would be disinclined to share that information and to report that information as a news organization might, but as Democrats might not. So Ella Cook was a second-year student. She was from Alabama, and she was the vice president of the Brown University College Republicans. Now, was she targeted, Ella Cook, by whoever the psychopath was? The other person that was killed, 9 additional wounded, but 2 shot and killed, was Muhammad Aziz, and his last name, he's an Uzbek from Uzbekistan, is Muhammad Aziz, is Umar Zokov. So Mr. Umar Zokov, he was gunned down as well, an Uzbek national, and he's in his first year at the Ivy League school, and he was gunned down in his class along with Ella Cook, who was the vice president of the college Republicans. And was that it? Was she the target and everybody else is collateral damage, incidental damage? We don't know. And honestly, I've seen various reports that they had more than 600 cameras, video cameras on the campus of Brown University, and they're telling us, well, we don't really have any video of what happened, even though we pay for and allegedly maintain more than 600 video cameras, surveillance cameras on the campus, and it's not the most gigantic campus in the history of the world. But let's go to ABC News. They had a reporter named Whit Johnson. Whit Johnson for ABC News last night was reporting on the story from Providence, Rhode Island, and Brown University.
Police say the gunman fired more than 40 rounds from a 9mm handgun inside a classroom. Joseph Aduro, who is graduating this month, was leading a study group of about 60 students inside a lecture hall when the shooter walked in.
When you made eye contact with him, what did your mind tell you in terms of what was happening in that moment?
Immediately when I saw him, I saw a gun. The gun was so big and long that I genuinely thought, like, okay, this is the end of the road for me.
This guy seemed like a perfectly calm, reasonable young man, a student there. Apparently, the gun was so big and so long that he thought that this is the end of the road for me, and that's not irrational. That's not hard to believe at all. But you heard him say to ABC News that he was in the room. He locked eyes with the killer. The guy that we just heard from, Brown student Joseph Aduro. He's a black guy, and he said, well, the gun was so big and so long that I thought it was the end of the road for me. And he seemed like a perfectly reasonable guy, but he seems to be, and everybody's saying, well, the eyewitness said it was a long gun, it was a rifle, it wasn't an AR-15 style rifle, and the ABC reporter didn't ask any obvious follow-up questions because he's an ABC News reporter. But then the police chief in Providence, Rhode Island, Oscar Perez, was asked about this, and I got to say, he was not very impressive either by any stretch of the imagination. Now, I guess he was not prepared for this in Providence, Rhode Island, and all that, but nevertheless, the police chief in Providence, Rhode Island, Oscar Perez, and keeping in mind that Joseph Aduro, the eyewitness in the room, said the gun was so big and so long that I knew it was over for me. That would certainly suggest that he's got a rifle of some kind, right, a shotgun or a rifle of some kind. But then the police chief.
Brown University is the most camera-ridden, most conscious piece of real estate in Rhode Island, and yet there seems to be little or no video evidence outside of that clip. Is there a lot more video that we're just not able to see yet? because of the ongoing investigation, or is there simply no video?
So what we shared with you the other day is what we have.
And that was it for him. What we shared with you the other day is what we have. And it's one clip of grainy video that looks like it's from off campus somewhere. And as the reporter said, and the reporter sounded like a no-nonsense guy, is that, this campus is the most heavily cameraed piece of real estate in the state of Rhode Island. And you've released one little clip of a grainy, faraway shot of a guy that you couldn't identify if your life depended on it. And is that all we get? And he said, well, yeah, that's all we're going to, that's all, that's it. You're not getting, we might have 650 cameras on campus, but we're not going to release anymore. That's what we're releasing. Isn't that amazing? That's appalling. And the police chief, and it's not just me, there is nobody that's been impressed with any part of this investigation. The FBI is down there. The FBI combing through there's a layer of snow, and you should have, the cameras should show you the path that the gunman took. If you have literally hundreds, more than 600 cameras on campus, that you should certainly be able to get all kinds of video of the guy coming and going, and if he dropped anything over there. But the FBI is in there with teams, evidence teams, and they're going through the snow and metal detectors and the bushes and everything else. But they're doing a very poor job, I've got to say. And, there's a $50,000 reward, and maybe that will help. And they did release a couple of new clips today. I think they're from people's doorbell cams off campus, but they're not making anything clear. They're not communicating well. They're not doing a good job of anything, I've got to say. Pretty amazing stuff. Yes, sir. Now, there was also something that I saw today that struck me as kind of interesting, and there is a senator. We have a United States senator. It's amazing how anonymous senators are these days, because they're not very good or impressive for the most part. But this is Senator Ashley Moody. Ashley Moody was on the television. Oh, she was on early this morning as well. And I was watching her in the 5 o'clock hour. And she's talking about the drug boats. And apparently President Trump blew up another drug boat and killed, I think, 8 more people or something like that. But Ashley Moody, Florida Senator Ashley Moody, she was on the television this morning, and she said something that I thought was a wow soundbite, and I wanted to share it with you, because last year we had in the United States of America, according to official U.S. government numbers, we had, what is the number? More than 47,000 Americans, more than 42,000 Americans. 42,233 Americans died from fentanyl overdoses alone. And then there's heroin and other opioids and cocaine and all the associated drugs that might kill you. 42,233 fatal drug overdoses. This from May of 2024 until April of 2025. And kind of an odd breakdown, but there it is, 42,000. And that's just fentanyl. That doesn't count the other deaths, fatal drug overdoses, right? And here is Florida Senator Ashley Moody, who said something real interesting, talking about, the war on drugs and Nancy Reagan, just say no to drugs. And we declared that we were going to fight drugs, and Nancy Reagan was attacked for it quite roundly by the fake news media. But listen to these numbers from Florida Senator Ashley Moody.
President Trump came in very strong in his administration and said, we're going to take the escalating number of deaths in America. As you know, over 100,000 Americans die every year. Compare that to the 80s when we were in a crisis and Nancy Reagan first said, just say no. We lost 3,000 people a year. So think about the difference there.
Now, I heard that number and I said, wow, I really did. Now, she's a Republican senator, of course. Ashley Moody from the state of Florida says that in the 1980s, when we first had this war on drugs idea, and when just say no was a slogan, and that actually works, if you just say no. But she said we had about 3,000 Americans a year dying in fatal drug overdoses, and then under Joe Biden, we hit more than 100,000 a year. Last year, I think that, this year, I think we're looking at 80,000 plus killings from the poisons that are fentanyl and other drugs that people can so easily OD on. Isn't that amazing? But that's, wait a minute, we're only losing 3,000 a year to fatal drug overdoses, and then under Joe Biden, we're hitting 100,000 a year in fatal drug overdoses just in the United States. And we have, it's just, it's crazy. It's greater than the number lost in the Vietnam War and the Korean War combined. That is completely nuts. Nuts. I'm telling you. Oh, yeah, I definitely want to get to the Jake Tapper. Let's go to number 19. Because Jake Tapper, who had been a Democrat Capitol Hill staffer for the Democrat Party and then had a date with Monica Lewinsky, and then became a CNN anchor for millions of dollars. He's a Democrat first, last and foremost. Jake Tapper on Pod Save America with Tommy Vitor, who was, of course, in the Obama White House, and he's the guy who said, that was like so 2 years ago.
Did you also change attacks to demonstrations in the talking points?
Maybe. I don't really remember.
You don't remember?
Benghazi.
Dude, this was like 2 years ago. We're still talking about the most mundane
it is the thing
process
that everybody is talking about.
Dude, Brett Baer, that was like so 2 years ago when Hillary Clinton abandoned our ambassador and our troops in Benghazi, Libya, to be murdered by the jihadis of radical Islam, by the way. But Jake Tapper went on with Tommy Vitor on his podcast because Democrats, they find a way to, billionaires fund them all over the place. Jake Tapper on Pod Save America with Tommy Vitor, the dude that was so 2 years ago guy. And listen to this. Jake Tapper explains that they really have to spend a lot of time focusing on and covering and talking about Donald Trump's health, his health, which they're going to tell us is failing. And the reason that Jake Tapper and CNN really have to focus on President Trump's health is because they didn't pay attention to Joe Biden's health at all. So in order to make up for that, they give the Democrat a full free ride for 4 years, and then they need to torture and firebomb the Republican for 4 years. Here's Jake Tapper.
How do you think the media is handling kind of these growing instances of Trump falling asleep in meetings or maybe seeming like he's losing a step?
It's a great question.
Not happening.
We cover it all the time on my show.
Listen to this.
All the time. And
constantly.
I think that is to a large degree because we saw what happened with Biden, and while we covered it, we didn't cover it. Maybe we didn't ask as many questions as we should have at the time. And I think it is a legitimate question for any president of any age, but particularly anybody who is like in the range of being an octogenarian, right?
Did you hear how reptilian that whole thing was, how snake-like that was? Well, because we didn't cover Joe Biden's failing health at all, now we're doubling down with Trump and focusing on stories that claim that he's not healthy and he falls asleep in meetings. We know that he's up 21 hours a day. We know that he's tweeting at 3 a.m. and at 10 p.m. and at 7 a.m. And that's but he's actually saying because we didn't cover Biden, we must cover Trump very, very aggressively. That's what he's saying. That's his explanation. We didn't do our job for 4 years, so now we're going to double down and attack Trump over health issues because we didn't do anything on the subject during the Biden years. And that makes sense to him. He should go back to Monica Lewinsky, I think. Hey, this Christmas, as we all celebrate the gift of life, you and I and all of us, we have an opportunity to share that same gift with a mother and her baby. Imagine a young woman facing an unplanned pregnancy, feeling all alone and unsure of what to do, searching for hope and grasping at straws. And that's where preborn ministries come in very, very importantly. There is no doubt that you know someone whose birth was unplanned. You know, God's plan of redemption often works in the unplanned and in mysterious ways. Every mother that preborn serves faces a moment of decision when she sees her baby and an ultrasound provided to her free of charge. In that moment, The young mother has the opportunity to say yes to life. Preborn's mission is to help her find the courage, the faith, and the chutzpah to do so. Right now, this Christmas, for just $28, you can help save an actual human life. And thanks to a special matching grant, your gift will be doubled no matter how much you donate. To donate, just dial pound 250, and when prompted, say the keyword baby. That's pound 250. The keyword is baby, or you go to Al Gore's Amazing Internet to preborn.com/plant. That's preborn.com/PLANTE. Preborn.com/plant. A wonderful. Yeah, so Jake Tapper and CNN, they've got to spend a lot of time, a whole lot of time, every day, harping on Trump's health because he closed his eyes once at a meeting, they say. It's not on camera, but never mind that. And because they didn't cover Biden at all for 4 years, now they've got to prove that they're really aggressive. It's a mental illness.
We saw what happened with Biden, and we didn't ask as many questions as we should have at the time.
President Trump yesterday, how many press conferences did he hold? How many topics did he cover? He covered every topic on the planet. President Trump yesterday talking about the Democrat Party's disaster of health care in the United States, America, Obamacare. It's a grand theft operation, and all the money goes to the insurance companies that funnel the money back to Democrats. President Trump has a different idea.
The insurance companies, they're making billions and billions of dollars. Their stock is through the roof. I don't want to give them anything. I want all money going to the people and let the people buy their own health care. It'll be unbelievable. They'll do a great job. They'll get much better health care at a much lower cost.
That sounds like a good idea. Let's do that. President Trump also working on peace in Europe with Ukraine and so on, and the Turtle Island Liberation Front.